I want to start by thanking you all for being here, and I really mean that, because one of the reasons why I like to interact with people and spend a lot of time on the Q&A rather than prepared remarks is because I want to hear from you, because we need your help. You are seriously the future of healthcare, and people like me, kind of, who've been in the industry, we can be set in our ways, right? We're trying to come up with ideas, but we need your vision, we need your energy, we need your power, individually and collectively. So I would say that don't be shy. Please ask questions. Please say what's on your mind. But most importantly, please be active in what you're doing today with those folks back there, because we absolutely need you. We can't do this alone. So I wanted to just give a brief overview of the organization that I work for, Centura Health. Centura is a Christian healthcare organization, and that features 17 hospitals throughout Colorado and Kansas. We actually have 2 in Kansas. We have 21,000 team members. We employ 500 physicians. We have relationships with over 5,000, and we have over 100 physician offices and clinics. So quite a big organization. Most importantly, we touch the lives of over 500,000 people every year. It's a responsibility that we take seriously, and it's what we're here to do. Actually, the mission of the organization, which is core to who we are, is to extend the healing ministry of Christ. So think about that for a second. Is there anything better? Is there anything more noble, more passionate than to do God's work and to help people? It's the reason why I came. It's the reason why my people work with me. And so we take that responsibility very, very seriously. So when I was first asked to come talk to you, I was pretty excited. And I thought, I'm going to say something really, really inspirational, because this is the season of college graduations. And so if you watch, CNN, and, they'll highlight all these great speakers. My alma mater, one of my alma maters, Tim Cook, spoke to the graduates, and they say really powerful things. Change the world, follow your heart. If you do something you love, you'll be better at it. And then I started thinking about my college graduation a long time ago, it feels like. And the speaker, pastor named Reverend Johnny Ray Youngblood, said some of those things as well. And I was just sitting in the audience and thinking to myself the entire time, I'm about to leave college. This wonderful cocoon they call college, right? We have no real responsibilities. That's great and all, but I just need a job. What can I do to get a job? And so practically speaking, what I thought I would do is tell you a little bit about myself, how I got to where I am in life. Not that I'm perfect by any way, but just to give you an example of what's out there and what a certain path may be, and give you some tips that I learned early on from one of my mentors, which has really guided me well within my career. I also did want to talk about what's going on in healthcare. We're really kind of in a mess these days, and kind of tee up some thoughts and then open up for questions. So I will say that I never saw myself as a hospital administrator. I really actually kind of stumbled into it. I was in business school. Well, let me take a step back. My mother is a physician, and so I did spend a lot of time in a hospital growing up. And so it was very common. She was a pathologist, and so she was hospital-based. It was very common for her to bring me to the hospital when I was young. She had to do an autopsy, read specimens. She'd plop me somewhere and say, just don't touch the bodies. Do whatever you want, just don't touch the bodies. And so I've always been around it, but I was never really attracted to it. So I ended up doing some consulting work at the Advisory Board Company, which is a member-based research organization in healthcare, and I liked it. Went to business school, and I went to business school, my second year of business school, 9/11 hit. And so when you go to business school, a lot of people think, I want to become a consultant, I want to become a banker, I want to work for John Deere, like all these cool jobs that you read about and hear about. Well, after 9/11, a lot of those jobs went away. Traveling was a nightmare. I think some of you could probably recall what it was like getting through airports. And so a lot of those jobs went away. And so it was around that time I was trying to redefine what I wanted to do when I was approached by Tenet Healthcare. Now, Tenet Healthcare is a for-profit healthcare system. It's a national system, and they had a leadership development program. And I remember getting the flyer. They invited me to a seminar. I'm thinking, there's no way I want to do this. Hospital administrators, all they do, what my mom used to say, all those guys do is they walk around, they shake hands, and they go to meetings. Like, what do they actually do? And so I put it to the side. But it was my wife, is my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, said, here's the thing. You've been a consultant in the past. You've gotten paid by people to tell them what to do, but you've never actually done it. Why don't you give that a try? And so it resonated with me, and I said, why not? So I entered into a leadership development program, which took me from, follow the path here, North Carolina down to Dallas, Texas. Spent a year in Texas, which was actually quite a bit of fun, as we discussed. And then my first hospital job in Atlanta. So I spent 3 years at that hospital, North Fulton Regional Hospital. It was an unbelievable experience. I learned a ton about healthcare, and being in a for-profit healthcare system was incredibly valuable to me. I know more about healthcare finance, learned more about healthcare finance in that period of time than throughout my career. But I felt the draw to something more. And so I was called to faith-based healthcare, an organization called Baptist Health. And that was a very challenging decision for me because I had never been to Jacksonville, didn't know anything about it. We had just started a family. I had a newborn. But it was really, and I don't want to sound overly religious, but I honestly think it was God's will that took us there, took me and my family there. And we spent 11 wonderful years there, learned more, doing different things, managing a big physician group. I never thought I'd do that. Probably never want to do that again. But I learned a lot, wonderful experience, and one of the things that made me who I am today. 11 years later, I get a call from a headhunter and said, hey, I've got this wonderful job in Denver you need to take a look at. And again, I felt like it was God's path to take me to this job that I'm currently in right now. So I've been very, very blessed. I would say, I had terrific mentors along the way. And so I will encourage all of you, if you don't have a mentor, find somebody who you can ask the hard questions. Find somebody who can help you along the way. I had numerous people, we stand on the shoulders of giants, I always say. I wouldn't be where I am if it weren't for those people. And so it was my first CEO, excuse me, a gentleman named John Holland, who was the CEO at North Fulton Regional Hospital. He took me under his wing. I was 32 years old. He had a first administrative job, and quite honestly, I didn't know what I was doing. Right? I was part of this really great program, and they put us in these facilities, and you work so hard to get there, and then you say, well, okay, now what? And he pulled me in, and he said, I'm gonna help you, right? I'm gonna rough you up a little bit, but I'm gonna help you, and I'm gonna make you a better leader. But more importantly, he made me a better man. And so I took the opportunity to write a few down, and some of these are going to seem very, very obvious, but I feel like they're important to say. Again, as an example for me, it helped me get where I am. And maybe one or two of these things can help you. But if they sound basic, it's because they really are. And the first thing I would say is to take advantage of opportunities. Okay, sounds like common sense. You'd be shocked at how few people actually do that. I get asked all the time in my job. I meet with a lot of people, up-and-comers, and they say, well, how do I get ahead? How do I do this? How do I do that? And they're looking for the shortcut. And the first thing I tell them is there's no shortcuts. It was no shortcut for me. I had to make a lot of sacrifices, time, moving around, etc., to get to where I am. So there's no shortcut for that. So take advantage of the opportunities that come your way. Sometimes that means taking on a role that nobody wants. Sometimes it means mentoring somebody else who's very difficult. And sometimes, like me, it means moving across the country and finding those other jobs, going where God is calling you. And so I would encourage you to do that. You'll stand out, and you'll be known for somebody who's encouraged by that type of activity. There's a little bit of risk, no question, and a lot of effort, but I guarantee you ultimately there will be a reward. Again, my time at Tenet working for a for-profit healthcare system, I never thought I'd do that, but it made me better. It made me more complete. Same with my time in Jacksonville. So I would again encourage you to take advantage of opportunities as much as you can. The second is to have a superior work ethic. Sounds basic again, but my experience and what I was told by my first mentor, be the first person in and be the last person out, all right? We had a friend that we used to call LIFO, that's an accounting term, because he was always the last in, first out. Don't be that guy, because that guy's not going anywhere, I can tell you that. But if you're recognized for your work ethic, that's one thing that nobody can ever take from you. Inevitably, at some point in your career, you're going to do something that you're not prepared to do, that you're just not going to have all the, it'll be a stretch opportunity. And that's okay. You ought to take those opportunities as much as you can. But if you've got the greatest work ethic that you could possibly have. Nobody can ever take that away from you, and you'll be known for it. And at the end of the day, there's not much better that you could be known for than being a hard worker. Number 3, look out for your people. You can't do this alone. I can't do what I do by myself. You have to have a strong team, and you've got to have loyalty and good relationships amongst your team. And you won't have that if you're not looking out for them. Predict where they might fall. Pick them up when they fall down. Be a better person to them. Be a mentor. Be a friend. Always look out for them. Number 4, be predictable in how you behave. And this one, when he told me this one, I thought that's kind of interesting. And his point was very well taken. He said, if people don't know how you're going to react to something, you'll never know the truth. If they think you're going to fly off the handle, or if they can't predict what your behavior is going to be, they're never going to tell you the whole story. If you're predictable, if you're consistent, you're much more apt to hear what you need to hear. You'll be more palatable to work with, and you'll just be a better all-around leader. And so my personality is more like that anyway, so that was good. I don't have, necessarily the peaks and valleys that some people do, but it really was very helpful in how I interact with people. And people have noted that over the years. Like, you just seem so calm. It seems like, are you paying attention? And it's like, yeah. I just want to be consistent. I don't want to fly off the handle, or I want to get overly excited about something. So, as different as that may have been to hear, it was very, very, very helpful to me. And finally, and this is to me the most important of the lessons, he said, never forget who you are or why you are here. Okay? And what he meant was never forget the fact that you are a caregiver. You are all caregivers. Whether you lay hands on patients or not, you are all caregivers. I've never laid a hand on a patient, thank God. But what I do allows caregivers, nurses, technologists, physicians to do what they need to do better. And I take that responsibility very seriously. So, never forget that. And never forget who you are as a person. So at Centura, we've encouraged all of our team members, all of our physicians to define what is your personal mission. And if you think about it, that could be hard to do. So why were you put on this earth? What is your reason for being here? And I have defined my mission after, countless write it down, throw it away. I'm really here to help others get better. Now, there's a double meaning in that, of course. The first is I'm in healthcare. So I want to help people whose lives have been interrupted by illness and injury. Okay? I want them to feel better. The bigger part of it for me, though, is I love working with people. I love making them feel better. I love mentoring. I love giving advice, sometimes good and sometimes bad, right? But I love being around people and helping them get to the next level. That's what drives me. That's what gets me up in the morning. And so I would encourage all of you to define what your personal mission is, because I believe that once you've got that figured out, then I think you're good. Then life becomes much easier. So do think about that. I did want to mention, and then I'll open up for questions, because I said we need your help. Moving to Colorado has been very interesting for us. It's completely different from Florida. My kids are now, they're huge snowboarders, and they love it here. I love the weather. There's no humidity. It's great. But we live in a bubble here, I have to tell you. So right now, we are not being pushed in the healthcare venue as much as other parts of the country. And the reason is because everybody's doing well. Hospitals are doing well. Physicians are doing well. The payers are doing well. And most importantly, businesses are doing well. So there hasn't been that push to value-based care, with value being high quality, low cost, the same places as other places in the country. So in Florida, for example, a lot of the employers have said, enough. I need some other answer. And so hospitals, health systems have had to be very aggressive in figuring out what those answers are. In Colorado, we haven't had to be as aggressive. Now we're all planning and plotting and trying to figure out how to do that. But quite honestly, we haven't needed to get there yet, and so most of them haven't gotten there. But I will tell you, my personal opinion on this, which many of you I'm sure would agree with, our industry it's in trouble right now. I mean, it's kind of a mess. Healthcare is really, really expensive. It's in the crosshairs of a lot of businessmen, certainly the politicians now. We don't make it easy to access. I mean, good luck getting a physician appointment if you're on Medicaid in some parts of the state. We make it very, very difficult. It's one of the least customer-friendly industries out there. So we have a lot of work to do. We have to change how we do business. And we're going to look to people like you to help us do that. Because if we don't, okay, so if we don't, you've heard this term of disruptors, thousands upon thousands of disruptors, people that say, I want to change the game. And when you think about other industries, you think about companies that have changed, they have disrupted. Amazon's probably the best example. Uber's right behind them. That's coming in healthcare in some way, shape, or form. So we have to control our own destiny. Because there are plenty of other organizations, Amazon, JP Morgan, and Berkshire Hathaway now have this alliance, if they will. They want to change the game. So we have to figure out how to do that effectively, all for the sake of enhancing quality to our patients. So again, that's something that we're going to need your help with. And I would say, push us on this. Hold us accountable, not only as part of the process, as caregivers, but also as consumers. And those of us who have gone through difficult healthcare experiences or family members that have gone that, we all know where the gaps are. So don't just go along for the ride. Find out where the gaps are and be part of the solution. So I'm going to open up the questions here in a second. But again, I really want to thank you for doing what you're doing. Nothing is more important. We need you. We're counting on you. And I want to offer up my personal assistance. If there's ever anything I can do to help you in your journey, don't hesitate to contact me. I'm more than happy to give my email address. And I want to know what you're doing. I want to help you because, again, that is my personal mission, is to help others get better. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Eddie?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Nadira. I have a university degree. My major is microbiology here in Denver, and I got phlebotomist certificate. I'm having a hard time to find a phlebotomist job. I have applied many health places for this job online. Nothing is happening. I am puzzled, not knowing what to do.
Okay. Well, I think you're doing you're welcome. Thank you for the question. I think, first of all, doing what you're doing here today is the number one move, the first step. Talk to the recruiters. People are going to want to help you, for sure. I think networking, in our industry amongst others, networking is often the best way to get a job, because if you apply to a job online or through the paper, I don't even know if people do that, you're going to be one of hundreds, sometimes thousands, and it's hard to get noticed. So it's always best to have a personal connection. So network in your societies, just friends that you've worked with in the past. And you have to be very intentional about that. Nobody's going to do it for you. So be aggressive, okay? Try to stand out. But the first step you're going to take is going to be right back there, and I guarantee you there are going to be people there who are going to want to talk to you. So, good question.
Hello, my name is Amanda. I'm just wondering, you mentioned about customer service needing work in the healthcare industry. And I'm wondering if Centura or any other healthcare organizations you've worked for have specific programs or goals for burnout prevention in people who are in patient care or patient-facing roles.
That's a great question. In fact, we had a meeting the other day because caregiver burnout is a huge issue right now. And it's in the entire continuum. So the reason why we had this discussion the other day was because there was a number of physicians that we were meeting with on how to help them. 50% of physicians, in some cases, are burned out. I mean, that's a scary, scary statistic. In some specialties, I think it's anesthesia, it's even higher than that. And so what we're doing at Centura is we're taking the time to figure out what are the causes of that. And I'm not talking about the psychological and whatnot. Like, how can we make your environment more conducive, to taking care of our patients and taking care of yourself? Once we define that, then we'll be able to come up with more solutions. But, to me, I'm a firm believer in, body, mind, spirit, right? And if, again, which is what drew me to Centura. And I believe that if you hit on those three boxes, then you'll be much more, able to deal with all the things, the stresses of being a caregiver. And so we put a lot of faith into our ministry, and we've got chaplains, we've got places of worship, etc. I believe that to be my personal opinion on this. You can all disagree, but I believe that to be a very important part of being with healing is that faith component. So we push that out there as much as we can as well. So, but it's a very good question. Very big topic these days.
Hi, my name is Paul. I'm from Colorado Springs. We have increased growth coming down there for the next, I think, 32 years or so. It's going to surpass or be on par with Denver. Does Centura have any plans to increase the healthcare down there and additional hospitals, healthcare facilities, and whatnot?
So the easy answer is yes, absolutely. We were going to be the facility that we have. Penrose St. Francis facilities that we have in the Springs need to be redone, if you will. But what I would and so the answer is yes, more caregivers for sure, more services provided. I think we have to figure out what does that need look like in the future. So I've always told my colleagues when we talk about this, if we build a new hospital in Colorado Springs, in Denver, it doesn't matter where it is, if we build exactly what we have, we're fools. We need to build the hospital of the future. So what does that entail? It needs to be more customer facing, for sure. We need to take better advantage of technology. Here's the other thing. It's not going to be as focused on inpatient as it is today. So here's the question, and I'm not going to answer the question. I'll leave it up to you to ponder. If you have a 500-bed hospital in a part of the city and you want to enhance your growth, you want to replace that facility in some way, shape, or form, do you need 500 beds? You may not. You may need 300 and more outpatient services, because that's where a lot of this care is moving into the future. Now, it's placing a bet, right? And nobody wants to be caught short. And so what a lot of systems will probably do is try to do both. We're like, yeah, we'll still build the big hospital, and then we'll have all the outpatient stuff connected to it or the state. The problem with that is the overhead's going to kill you. At some point, within the next however many years, we're going to have a recession. No question about that. You talk to any economist worth their salt, they'll tell you that. So then you're left carrying this very expensive bag. And so to me, the right way to look at it would be, yes, let's enhance access to care first and foremost, more providers. Let's not make Medicaid patients wait months to see our providers. Let's do that. The venue is secondary. But again, to me, the most important thing, let's enhance the caregivers within that community. Yes, sir.
Hi, Richard Cantor, MHA program at Metro State University. I just had a question about you as an administrator with physician burnout and nurse burnout. What do you think as administrators we can do to facilitate just more of an environment to help not only burnout, but also just helping create a more positive atmosphere for the clinical caregivers?
Yeah, good question. Nobody talks about administrator burnout. I've been trying to push that cause, and no one's really grabbed onto it. I think honestly, the biggest thing is let them control their own destiny as much as they can. So physicians tell me this all the time. I've been working with them for a long time. My mother is one, and they say we don't want to be downstream. We need to be upstream. We're the ones who take care of the patients most directly. Let us make these decisions. And so my personal philosophy, my CEO's philosophy at Centura, is we have become more physician-facing. And so allow the caregivers to make major decisions which impact the way they take care of patients, because we often do things which make it harder for them. Now, there are some things which you can't avoid. EMR, as an example. I mean, we couldn't avoid having an EMR, but they ought to be part of the selection process because they're the ones who are going to be using it. And I will extrapolate that to the nurses' side as well. So at my hospital, we started a nursing council. And so we sit down with the nurses and we listen to them, well, what's on your mind? And then we took that concept and now we have a team member council. So we have representatives from various parts of the organization, imaging, housekeeping, nursing, what have you. And we sit down and we talk about issues. If you let them control their destinies as much as you can, I think that will help significantly. Because again, they're the ones who are going to be sitting there pulling these long shifts in these high stress environments. And so if they have control over how that's done, maybe it can be that much better. So that's probably the thing I would point to the most.
Good morning. My name's Shelby. I'm a new grad nurse, and throughout nursing school, all we hear is that there's a big nursing crisis, that nurses are needed everywhere. However, coming to Denver, I'm slowly realizing that the new graduate nurse positions are very limited. From your higher up experience, how would you recommend that we as new graduates can stand out in such a competitive area for new nurses?
Yeah, this is, again, a different situation. So right now, experienced nurses they're very, very hard to get. New nurses, there's a lot of schools, the population's growing, and so we're blessed to have that supply. So not dissimilar from my earlier comment, you need to stand out, you need a network, you need to hit it hard, and you need to make sure that people know that you want the job. I always tell people that when you're interviewing for a job, so let's say you get through the front door, you're going to have a short amount of time to make a great impression. So when I interview somebody, we'll get through all the where you're from, what your experience is, what drives you. Very, very important question. But I need to hear one thing before I'm going to hire somebody. I need to hear them say, "I want that job, and this is why I want that job, and this is why you better hire me." I'm paraphrasing. So I would be aggressive in that approach. But the biggest thing that you can do is to network, because just by doing that, people will remember who you are, and you will stand out. And again, similar to the comment I made previously, in that room back there, there are absolutely people who are going to take new nurses. There's no question. And I think that's a great path for you. Excuse me. So once you get there, once you get in, you're only going to be a new nurse for so long. Figure out what your passion is, where you want to work, and how you want to do things, and then set your path. So, but you got to be aggressive about it. It's not just going to happen. You have to stay on it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
Hi.
I was wondering about the future and alternative medicine. Is there going to be more brought into the hospital system?
I think so. So it's interesting. We had this discussion about integrative medicine the other day and the approaches, and there are those who kind of poo-poo it. Having a wife, my wife is a breast cancer survivor, and having been through that experience and knowing that she used some of those techniques, I know they work. And so I think the short answer is yes. But I think it's going to take, not every system is going to embrace them in the same way. And mainly around the economics, I'll just be honest, right? It's not like an MRI or an outpatient surgery. But those systems that are going to stand out in the future, those providers that will stand out in the future, need to embrace that. Because, excuse me, I know personally that helps. So I think that you will continue to see that in spaces. If you want, afterwards, we can talk a little bit more specifically about some of the things that we're thinking of doing. But I think it's a very, very important need. And the other thing is that healthcare is specific. Okay? The way you use healthcare and the way that I use healthcare is different. And so we need to be accommodating, understanding that, and embracing it. And I think historically what we've done with healthcare is we haven't put the patient first. Okay? We haven't tailored healthcare as much as we should. And I think we're starting to do that more and more. So I'm excited about what that will bring, but we got a long way to go. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. A long way to go. But hopefully you guys will all help us with that. So again, thank you very much for your time. Good luck. And like I said, if there's ever anything I can do, I'd be happy to help. Thank you.